welcome to another Tuesday evening lesson. Sorry we're slightly late today, but we're going to carry on with our Tuesday lessons as usual. Now today we have a new topic today, and it's called Everything is Obtained by the Power of Prayer. So this is an interesting topic because normally when people talk about prayer, they always relate to what we hear about in religion, right? You got to pray to God and that kind of stuff. But in the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's a little different, because at the end of the day, we're all made up of a desire to receive pleasure. By the way, if this is if you haven't watched these lessons before, these are probably not for beginners. So you might want to do is watch the previous lessons that we started with the Education Center, like semester 1, semester 2. You can find them here, or if you are interested in studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, and if you'd like to study, you can go to kabbalah.info, and there's a website there where you can join courses to study wisdom of Kabbalah. Okay, so we've been doing these Tuesday nights for quite a while now. So these lessons are kind of like, for people who already have some kind of a foundation. So let's get started again. The topic is prayer. And in the wisdom of Kabbalah, prayer is a very interesting thing. It's called the work of the heart, actually. So actually, whatever I desire in my heart is called a prayer. Because at the end of the day, what I want is my prayer. So if I want, for example, a cup of coffee, that's like a prayer, okay? And at the end of the day, what really is, what the difference is between prayer in religions and in the wisdom of Kabbalah is prayer is something that a person builds in his sensations, in his desire, actually, rather than doing the lip service. All right. So rather than just repeating words and praying, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, that's not called a prayer. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, praying means that I have a desire in my heart that I really want it to come true. And obviously, there's a certain thing called the right prayer, which means something that is compatible to what life is trying to bring us to. Now, as you know from the wisdom of Kabbalah, there's a purpose to creation. There's a purpose to our life. And our life's purpose is to attain a higher level of consciousness. This is also sometimes called adhesion with the Creator, or understanding the laws of nature, or living in another perception of reality where we can actually feel completely balanced and good. So attaining that higher level can only happen if I want it to happen. And a prayer is actually something that I'm trying to build. So that is what will happen. That's what I want it to happen. Okay, that's what I want to happen. So this is why building a prayer, or the topic of prayer, is a room for scrutiny in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and it's not something that's easy to get your head around in the first lesson, maybe. So what we're going to do is we're going to read selected excerpts, as usual, from selected sources, from authentic Kabbalistic sources, from our webpage, and from there on, what we're going to do is, if you've got any questions, we're going to go over them, and I'll try to explain as best I can. Okay. So let's move forward. So let me put my glasses on. I think I'm going to need these. All right. So we're going to read an excerpt from Baal HaSulam from letter number 57. Everything, small or great, is obtained only by the power of prayer. All the labor and work to which we're obliged are only to discover our lack of strength and our lowliness, that we are unfit for anything by our own strength. For then we can pour out a wholehearted prayer before him. So this is a scrutiny that a person needs to come to. Now, when I say needs to come to, obviously I can't just read an article and find myself in that state. It's not going to happen. So this is why we call it, studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. Studying actually means that inside of me, I'm building some kind of a necessity, a requirement for inner change. And what happens is I feel like I can't do it. No, it's not that I feel like I can't do it. I see that it is impossible to do it. And also, I don't really feel like changing. I mean, I don't mind the world changing, and I don't mind changing the world, but to change myself is not something that a person can really agree with and wants to do. It's really a discomfort for us. So as we're advancing in the wisdom of Kabbalah, what we want to do is attain the attribute of bestowal and this mutual care between us, which is actually the attribute of the Creator, or the attribute of nature as well, actually, because we can call nature God, Creator as well, it doesn't matter. And the law of nature is balance. And if you look at the reality, human being is the unbalanced part of reality. We all want to, we are the only creatures probably in the universe who destroy their own home, which is our planet. All right. So we're the only guys who do that. So accordingly, life is actually bringing us to see and to understand that we're actually horrific. We're really lowly. And that's what it's saying here. And the study should actually bring a person to see one's true nature, that I'm really not capable of doing some stuff that I really would like to do. I'm just not capable. I don't have the strength, the mind, the enthusiasm. I'm just not there. So the study brings a person to that. And that does take some time. It really requires a person to make some effort before he can see that he's really incapacitated to do anything. We could argue about this, so I can decide that I'm unfit for anything, and why all the labor and exertion? However, there's a natural law that there is none so wise as the experienced, and before one tries to actually do all he can do, he is utterly incapable of arriving at true lowliness, to the real extent as said above. So this is actually what I mentioned as well. Bala Islam is saying that, listen, we have to make an effort in order to understand that we are lowly. This is why we must toil in holiness, which is the wisdom of Kabbalah, basically. So we must toil in our spiritual work and purity, trying to correct ourselves. As it is written, whatever you find that your hand can do by your strength, that do, and understand this, for it is true and deep. So a person who's studying the wisdom of Kabbalah really needs to do everything in his power that he can to advance, and then finally realize that there's a limit to where the buck stops, and he understands that he's not going to be able to change with what he's doing. I reveal this truth to you only so you would not weaken or give up on mercy. Although you do not see anything, for even when the measure of labor is complete, it is the time of prayer. But until then, believe in our sages. I did not labor and found, do not believe. When the measure is full, your prayer will be complete, and the Creator will grant generously, as our sages instructed us. I labored and found, believe. For one is unfit for a prayer prior to this, and the Creator hears a prayer. So what we have to understand here is that a person really needs to do his maximum. He needs to max out. Once he does that, he can come to this inner discernment that I've done everything I can, and there's nothing else that I can do that's going to change anything. Okay, and this is how one actually starts to build this prayer. Okay, so remember the topic is prayer. So Bala Islam is saying, well, how are we going to build that prayer? It's not going to be, it's not going to happen with your lip service, that's for sure. So how we're going to build a prayer, we need to exert as much as we can. So we have some desire to have some personal change. Okay, let's move forward to number 2. If there are any questions, let me know. If there is just one. Okay, so there's a question from David. Let's do this and check out David's question. How can we help our friends get to the state of true lowliness? Well, there's only one thing we can do, right? We can facilitate everyone can facilitate the others as best they can to do the work in the environment. Okay, so for example, if you got a 10 and you're always showing them that you're working, doing your best, it'll also compel them to try and do their best as well. So when everybody's trying to do their best to move forward, right, then that's like, we're all helping each other out in that way. So I want to be a good example to all the friends, do the best I can. And if everybody does that, we're all doing the best we can. And then we all come to the understanding that we're all lowly. Right? Simple equation. So all of us working together, that common work must happen. Otherwise, individually, there is no spirituality. You can't be in spirituality if you're on your own. Even if you're on your own, think about it, you can't even feel that you exist if you're on your own. I need other people to feel that I exist. So accordingly, I'm getting feedback from them. And according to that feedback, I'm putting more and more work into it. And they're putting more and more work because there's this mutual dynamic working between us in the environment. And then when we're all working together, doing the best we can come to this, wow, we're doing and doing and doing and nothing's happening. And Baal Islam is saying it's not that nothing is happening. We feel like nothing is happening, but that is actually causing in us a desire for something to happen. Okay, so we've got another question here. Patricia is asking, was the lowliness that woke me up to needing Kabbalah different than the lowliness we need to come to prayer? That's right, it is actually different. It's different because when we first come to the wisdom of Kabbalah, we feel the lowliness of not having any meaning in life. We're thinking, like, what am I living for? What am I doing here? Why are we living? It's like it feels empty. So our initial participation or search for spirituality, to look for something, is to fulfill our inner emptiness. Okay, so that's one thing. The lowliness it's talking about here is when a person actually wants to change his nature because he or she understands that our egoism is causing us great grief. So life is trying to push us in such a way that we want to recognize that our egoism is evil. It's bad. And as we discover that, we feel lowly. We're thinking, oh my God, what am I? I'm just horrific, like not terrific, like we like to call ourselves, but horrific. So it's quite opposite in the wisdom of Kabbalah. And when a person sees his bad or her bad qualities, he begins to feel a little bad about himself. But the real lowliness that we're talking about is after the efforts, all the effort that one is making, the inability to change anything. And that really brings a person down. And another question here this question is from Flobella. But achieving lowliness, the great lack, doesn't that bring suffering and sadness and therefore distance from the upper force that is joy? Well, on the one hand, we feel bad, from our state, but there's a trick to it because in spirituality, there's a trick to everything, And the trick here is this. If I discover that I've done everything, I've done everything. Beyond this, I can't do anything. That is the time to turn to the Creator. And that is actually a point of joy. This is not sadness. Why? Because I've done everything. I did the best I could. I've proven that I've done everything. And now that I'm actually happy now, because I can turn to the Creator. Now I can say, listen, man, I tried everything. I did the best I can. You got to help me out. And that is how you build a real prayer. Because if I always felt that I could do something, it means I don't need the Creator. If I don't need the Creator, there's no need, there's no prayer. So this is actually a really good state. So on the one hand, you think, yeah, well, it's pretty bad. But on the other hand, you've come to the understanding and said, listen, I'm never going to be able to change myself, but the Creator can. And that is now a new approach. It's like a new phase. It's like a new beginning. So that causes happiness. That's a nice question. Rightio. So let's move forward a bit more. And we are reading on item number 3. This is from Rabash, article number 24, 3 times in the work. A prayer is work in the heart. That is, since the root of man's heart is the will to receive, and he needs the opposite, meaning that it will work only to bestow and not receive, it follows that he has a lot of work in inverting it. And since this is against nature, he must pray to the Creator to help him come out of his nature and enter what is discerned and above nature. All right, let's read that again. This is a good one. A prayer is work in the heart. That is, since the root of man's heart is the will to receive, and he needs the opposite, meaning that it will work only to bestow and not to receive, it follows that he has a lot of work in inverting it. And since this is against nature, he must pray to the Creator to help him come out of his nature and enter what is discerned as above nature. So as you can see, it has to, the work that I'm doing should be evoking a certain, it should be evoking sensations in me. That's called the work in the heart. So it should be a feeling, it should be an accumulation of feelings, or it should be feelings that inside of me develop this new desire, this new approach. Because our root, as he says here, root of man's heart is the will to receive, and he needs the opposite, which is love and bestowal, meaning that it will only work to bestow and not to receive. It follows that he has a lot of work in inverting it. This is why only a few people come to the wisdom of Kabbalah, because we're the only people who say, well, you know what? Our egoism is bad and dangerous, and it's causing us harm, and we'd like to change it. How many people on the planet do you guys know they want to change themselves so they can care about others and love others? Apart from my group, apart from B'nai Baruch, I don't know anyone, okay, that voluntarily wants to change his or her own nature so that he or she can love others to the same extent that one loves him or herself. I mean, who's working on that? It's an extremely difficult job. It means I have to delete all my foundations. I have to completely delete what I am and who I am and build something completely new and opposite that was not there before. So it's really a tough job. Okay, and this is why he's saying he must pray to the Creator to help him come out of his nature. So in order for me to pray to the Creator so that he can take me out of my nature and give me a new nature, I have to work a lot against that nature so that I can come to a demand. In order for me to come to a demand, I need to have 2 things here. One, I have to recognize that my egoism is bad. It's called recognition of evil. So if I discover that my egoism is bad, I'll want to run away from it. And once I come to that, then I can turn to the Creator. And that's the second thing. So I come to the recognition of evil and I want to escape from it. Then I turn to the Creator. There's cause and consequence. In order for me to recognize that my nature is bad, that the egoism is evil and bad, then I have to do a lot of work. And this is why a lot of people come. At first, they're all excited. They all want to do it. And then afterwards, unfortunately, they say, this is just too hard. And, they drop off. Actually, everyone can do this work. Studying the wisdom of Kabbalah is not hard. Anybody can do it. It's just a matter of using the environment correctly. If I use the environment nicely, I use it in a way where I can get power from it. So I can use myself to get strength from it. Then I can, really advance nicely as well. It doesn't have to be hell to be healthy, as they say. So if a person uses the environment well, he'll be doing good. Another question by David. Can we really do anything corporeally to bring us to this state? Well, yeah, we do that corporeal stuff because you have to start somewhere, and corporeality is where we exist. So because we exist here, then, what can you do? We got to start here. And how do we start? We start with the lessons. Why? Because the initial thing is I have to learn what my nature is. I mean, if Rabash didn't tell us, or Baal Islam didn't tell us, or the Kabbalists didn't write about it, how would we even know that we're bad? I mean, you ask a guy on the street, say, listen, you're evil, you're bad, you're a disgusting egoist. He'll say, what are you talking about? I haven't done anything. Yeah, because he's not there. He's not there. Okay, so so in order for us to discover all this, we have to really work on it and start learning first with the lessons. And then we have to apply what we've learned in the 10. And by applying it in the 10, I can then come to discernments, because all our discernments in corporeal life and in our spiritual endeavors, it's all about the connection between us. So the more I'm trying to tighten the connection between us, connect, do good stuff between us, then I'm going to have, more feedback. I'm going to go through more sensations. I'm going to go through more feelings. And these feelings will then be evaluated and analyzed by the mind, so I can actually come to see the truth. And then I'll come and see the truth, and that will be pretty ugly. And then I've got an opportunity to turn to the Creator. But we have to start from corporeality for sure. David's asking again, if we fully become a will to bestow, will we lose our bodies? What do you mean our bodies? Our corporeal bodies? No. Our corporeal bodies, we're going to need them until we finish our correction, right? Until the end of correction, we're going to need our corporeal bodies. But a body in spirituality is not our corporeal body. A body means the desire to receive, the will to receive. Now, if I use the will to receive in order to receive for myself in an egoistic state, we feel this corporeal world. But if I change it to bestowal, then the body becomes a vessel for bestowing. It's still called a body. Okay, it's called the guf, the body of the soul. So the body is not going to disappear. It's always the will to receive, but how we use it is going to change. Kevin's asking, what sort of percentage succeed and carry on studying? Well, that's a good question. What's the success rate you're asking? Well, that's a good question. I have no idea. How can I know? I'll tell you why you can't really tell. Spirituality is something you it's not like a test we take at school and somebody gives us a grade and then we say, 70% of the class passed and the 30% failed. It's not like that. Spirituality is an attainment, so I have to really get there. And the beauty of it is where I am, nobody else can tell because it's my inner state. It's like I can't describe to a person, well, nobody can describe to another person how they feel. I mean, we can try to explain how we feel, but what we actually feel, we will never be able to describe and to pass on to somebody else. So a person who's in fact in spirituality, he won't even talk about it either because there's nothing to talk about. This is why it was so hard for Kabbalists for centuries to kind of tell people what spirituality is, because nobody's framework, their mind, like capacity is there to even scratch the surface. It's very hard for Kabbalists to explain to humanity. So, and if you looked at them all, you wouldn't say they're a Kabbalist. I mean, if we sometimes Rav gives the examples of Rabash, and he says, listen, if you looked at him from the outside, you'd never think he's a Kabbalist. He's like a huge Kabbalist, but you could never tell. So it's not something we can tell, something we can really know. And some Kabbalists teach, and some are like concealed. They don't. So we can't really tell. Success rate, though, in our generation, because we're the beginning of the last generation, where the whole of humanity has now exhausted the egoistic development completely, we are now the beginning of a new era. In our time specifically, we should have much more people attaining spirituality. That's according to the laws of nature as well. Because once this development happens, it's like humanity's development. If you think about it, think of the past thousands of years we've been developing, and just think of the past 100 years. You can see how much was developed in 100 years compared to all the development that we did, I don't know, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, throughout 4,000, 5,000 years. So it's like this last 100 years has been the pinnacle of, technology, development, all kind of innovation, completely changed human society and human nature. So thousands of years of development was worth pretty much nothing compared to what we did in 100 years. It's already a sign that humanity's development is speeding up so much that we should have a good success rate. However, though, I can say this, Kevin, students who study for at least a few years, even after the first year, because I've got students and I can tell you that as well. I just had a meeting before our lesson. That's why I was a few minutes late. I had a meeting with them. And I just finished a 1-year term with a bunch of students. And I can seriously say in 1 year, they're just unrecognizable. How they started and how they are now are just completely different. The way they see the world, the way they look at the world, the way they understand how things work is just completely different. So in 1 year, and that's like 1 lesson a week or 2 lessons a week. Okay, because I teach 4 evenings a week, and they're getting about 2 or 3 lessons a week. And just from that, the amount of change they went through is amazing. They're already like a few centuries ahead of a person who hasn't studied at all. So I think the speed of development is really, really fast. It's really accelerating as the generation moves forward, because we're now at a time where humanity needs to start making this leap. We need to start making this change. This is why we've got the virus. Now we're going to have the economic problems. We're going to have social problems. We're going to have natural disasters. We're going to have all kinds of problems in the world, and they're not going to end just so that nature is just trying to tell us, guys, please change. Okay. So nature's way of talking to us is through all kinds of dramas. And the Kabbalist's way of talking and explaining is through trying to make the students understand that this is what we have to go through. We have to grow up. Like sometimes we tell our kids, grow up. So life is telling us that as well. So that's really encouraging. I see that a lot on students. And I've been teaching for more than 10 years now. So to see how every year new students come and they develop much faster than the ones that came before. It really is a speedy process, that what we're going through right now globally. Flobella is asking, this week my 10 is struggling to understand what are the duties of connecting. Can you bring some light on the issue? Well, connecting. How are we going to connect to each other? Well, we're going to connect to each other in desire and intention. That's what's called connection. Connection means that we want something together. So a common desire. We want to connect our desires for spirituality. That's called connection. So everything that we do, all our efforts should be towards how we can strengthen this desire for spirituality. That's what's really connecting us. If you think about it, the only connection we have between us is the dot in the heart. So that little spark that brought us to the wisdom of Kabbalah, the one that's always questioning what's the meaning of life, that is our connection point. And if I can grow that with the 10, then that would be amazing. And that's how we can help each other out as well. So it's always a bit of a problem to understand that. Like, what is connection? What are we supposed to connect? How are we supposed to connect? What are we supposed to do? So all these questions are legitimate. But the answer is that we're a desire to receive. And as students of Kabbalah, we'd like to receive the attribute of bestowal. That's what we'd like to receive. So if all of us work towards wanting that one thing, it means we're connected. It means we're connecting. Nice question, though. Okay, so let's carry on reading a little bit more. Where are we? Number 4? Yes, number 4. All right, good. The most important is the prayer. That is, one must pray to the Creator to help him go above reason, meaning that the work should be in gladness, as though he has already been rewarded with the reason of Kedusha, which is holiness. And what joy he would feel then. Likewise, he should ask the Creator to give him this power so he can go above the reason of the body. In other words, although the body does not agree to this work in order to bestow, he asks the Creator to be able to work with gladness, as is suitable for one who serves a great king. He does not ask the Creator to show the greatness of the Creator, and then he will work gladly. Rather, he wants the Creator to give him joy in the work of above reason, that it will be as important to a person as if he already has reason. This is another really, really nice excerpt. Let's read this again. The most important is the prayer. That is, one must pray to the Creator to help him go above reason, meaning that the work should be with gladness, as though he has already been rewarded with the reason of Kedusha. And what joy he would feel then. Likewise, he should ask the Creator to give him this power so he can go above the reason of the body. In other words, although the body does not agree to do this work in order to bestow, he asks the Creator to be able to work with gladness as is suitable for one who serves a great king. He does not ask the Creator to show the greatness of the Creator, and then he will work gladly. Rather, he wants the Creator to give him joy in the work of above reason, that it will be as important to a person as if he already has reason. So this is really important. We have to ask all the time, constantly demand, like nagging children, that we want something and we want the right thing, and that's to bestow. We want to be able to go above our desire to receive. When it's talking about going above the body, or going up, what does it say? To work above reason. Okay, so we want to go above reason. We want to work happily in bestowal above reason. That's the kind of thing we want, because working above reason is bestowal, actually. So all the time when a person is studying, he's trying to do his best, or she's trying to do her best to move forward, what we should be asking for his help from the Creator, saying, listen, help me, give me a hand so I can go above my desire to receive. And I want to be happy in that situation. And that is actually what the reward is for a person who's studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. For us, a reward means I am above my desire to receive. I am above the control of the body. So the body doesn't control me, but I control the body. Okay, good. And because this is the most important thing, why is it the most important thing? Because the prayer is the connection between us and the Creator, right? So this is how it all works. Me, the 10, and the Creator. So I have a dot in the heart. All the friends have a dot in the heart. We're all working together in order to connect, meaning we all want the same thing with the same intention as best we can. And by constantly praying together towards the Creator, we are nagging Him. Because my prayer alone, me nagging the Creator alone, is not enough. Okay, if you come from a family with a single kid, okay, you nagging is not enough. But if you got 10 friends, let's say you've got 10 siblings, and all of you are nagging, then the parents go crazy. Okay, so they just have to do what you're nagging for, because all 10 of you are screaming, right? So this is why turning to the Creator, connecting with the friends in order to turn to the Creator is very, very important. A lot of people don't understand. A lot of people say, well, I'll just pray to the Creator on my own. It's not going to happen on your own because there's not enough nagging power. So you're lacking the nag. All right. So this is an important concept that we really need to understand. This is why we must connect as well. So when like also in the family, when the siblings connect, they all come together and they want something common from the parents have to give it to them. Same here. If the group connects, if the 10 connects and they really want something, they take it to the Creator. The Creator doesn't have a chance. He has to do it. Laws of nature. Same thing here. Okay, so let's see. There's a question by Patricia. Can you add some insight to, let me see, love deviates from the right path? Is that a sign we're not in annulment? Love deviates from the right path. Well, I wouldn't say it deviates if it's the right kind of love. Love deviates from the path is not like I'm leaving the wisdom of Kabbalah. Love actually compels me to do something. So we could actually say that. Love compels a person to do something for others, willingly and happily and joyfully. It does make me leave my desire to receive for myself. And that's a deviation, but that's a positive deviation we're looking for in the wisdom of Kabbalah. So if I'm going forward in love and bestowal, it deviates me from my personal interest, that's right. But it puts me on track to love and bestowing others, which is where we want to get to in the first place. Annulment is necessary if I want to do something good for somebody else, because annulment means that I'm giving you more importance than myself, and that is actually the ability to bestow then. Because in spirituality, it's all about the importance of things. So annulment, therefore, is required to allow me to diminish my self-importance. So I'm reducing my egoism while increasing the value of others. And that can actually allow me to bestow with joy, because just like children, right? So because they're important for me, I can then love them more. Now, love is a strange thing. On the one hand, it's what we need to come to, but we need to come to the right kind of love. So too much too much of anything is bad. So love also requires that I'm in balance with the positive and the negative. It's like sometimes you have to be cross with your children to make sure that they don't do something dangerous, okay, or they don't repeat something dangerous. You're cross with them, not because you don't love them, quite to the contrary, because you love them. So also that limit of love and how to balance that love towards the other person is important, because too much of it is also destruction. This is why in life you need a bit of everything, a bit of bitter, a bit of sweet, a bit of day, a bit of night, a bit of everything to come to the right balance. Hope I answered your question. If not, just rephrase it for me. Isoka is asking, how do we agree on the same nag? Well, that takes time. That takes time. I agree. So I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think you're right. That takes time. It takes time until we connect. It takes time until we all want the same thing. But what you will see is that as we study and study and study, you'll see that there's something massaging us. You know, it's like putting us all together. It's like, think of us all like pieces of dough. And from all of us, it's going to be one big dough, and they're just constantly working on it. And all these 5, 10 pieces of dough, as they kind of roll it over and over and work on it, massaging it, kind of becomes one dough, and you can't tell the difference with the others. So it takes a bit of time and effort. Like Rabbi said, it's the work that a person needs to do against one's nature. But I think we can all do it really fast. I mean, like I said, with the students that we see now who make the effort, they really move fast and quick, and it's really encouraging to see that as well. So all we have to do is just do a little bit. We have to understand here that as we work, the reforming light, or the light of the Creator, or the help of the Creator is with us. And this is what this massaging is. So this is sometimes all of a sudden students say, oh, listen, I've changed so much. Okay, so how did you change so much? It's because as we study, that force from the outside, even though we don't feel it, it's working in us. You can also see the same thing with COVID-19. Everything in life is working on us, right? So, for example, we're now going through, as humanity, going through this cycle of COVID-19 with the lockdowns. Everything is like blurry. We don't know what's going to happen. Our whole approach to work has changed because we're working from home. Some businesses closed. Some businesses will never come back. And although we're all trying to get back to what was before, it's not going to be like that at all. Why? Because all the things that we're going through is actually causing inner changes, despite the fact that we don't feel like we're changing. So humanity will look at life differently as it tries to go back to the old way of life. It will begin to understand that, you know what, I don't want to go back to that old way of living. I mean, think about it, right? Now let's say now you're working from home, and now that the pandemic is over, what are you going to do? Take 2 hours of traffic going to work every day, get up, shave, get dressed up and home, without the traffic, without the expenses for, gas and clothing and makeup and all kinds of, shaving and all kinds of stuff. All of these things, you understand, are just now redundant. We don't need all this stuff. So humanity is going to have a new way of looking at things. So it's going to be really actually difficult for us to go back to what was before, and we won't be able to do it either. So like I said, as we work, this inner change is happening inside of us, and so we will get there. It's just a matter of studying and time. This is why it says, we need to give a lot of effort to make sure we're going through this change. Okay, cool. David's asking, someone in my 10 participates in Rav's lessons in a different room from the rest of his 10. Is that normal? I don't know what's going on in your tent, so I can't say. Ideally, we should all be together, right? Despite the fact that we may have problems. There's always going to be problems in the group. There's always a problem. And if there isn't a problem, it's actually not a good thing, because we want to overcome the problems. We want to go through these things and overcome them. So on the one hand, we're all trying to treat each other with love and bestowal. Negative things will come up and we should fix them. And the best thing is always for the group to be together. But, you know, you can't force anyone. So what can I tell you? Isuke is asking, how do we effectively use the 10 to sharpen our perception and sensitivity so that we can accelerate bringing this love, the Creator, into full revelation? How do we effectively use the 10? Look, what we need from the 10 is motivation. We need the drive, the energy to move forward. That's what I need the 10 for. Because we're working against our nature, the 10 has to be like a fuel tank. I need to be able to go in there and fill up my tank and just run forward all the time. So ideally, that's how the 10 should be. This is why we're always trying to treat each other nicely, trying to help each other. We're always trying to build a good connection, love of friends between us. Why? Because if I feel like we've got love of friends, then I'll feel comfortable in that area. I'll feel comfortable among the friends and I'll want to be with them. And if I want to be with them, I'll want to do things with them. So this will give us the energy and the drive. And that's the most effective way to use the 10. And the group. And obviously having a good framework really helps. The morning lessons are important. Dissemination is important. The gathering of friends, that's important. So if I have a nice framework where I'm constantly directing myself towards the goal, and plus I've got the friends and we're always trying to connect with a good mood, trying to help each other out, that's the best way to go forward. Okay, so I guess that was the last question, yeah? We've got one more. Okay, I answered that. Okay, so we've got one more. Okay, so Mine is asking, true prayer comes from the bottom of the heart, and how can our hearts be unlocked? Okay, well, we all have a heart of stone, actually, and we need to soften it up. And what softens it up is time. So what I can't do, time can do. The important thing here is to study consistently. We have to just keep going and going and going and going. We've got to be like little kids. These little kids, they don't stop. They don't stop. So until, like, I've got a little kid, and until he's exhausted, his full power, he does not go to sleep. Until he's completely knocked out. That's when he sleeps. Okay? And we've got to be like that. There's constantly wanting to know, wanting to do, wanting to advance in life, right? It's constant motion. Kids do it naturally. Instinctively, they just want to discover the whole world. They want to do everything. So we've got to be in that mode as well. And obviously, it's not going to be, at our age, it's not going to be easy, okay, because we're grown ups. So, and it's not natural for us. And the reason it's not natural for us is so we can have some free choice. So I have to use the environment and to make sure that I'm constantly in the study. And over time, as you grow used to the environment, the friends, and you're constantly working with them, then you begin to develop this sensation of love. It takes time. You begin to soften up. You really begin to soften up a little bit. You begin to become mature, patient, more welcoming, more open-hearted, more understanding, everything. It's all of a sudden you just become this softy, right? And it works, but it takes time. It's a good state, but we will get there. Okay, the important thing is to work consistently and constantly so that we can constantly move forward. And the more you delay yourself, it's just going to cause you more dramas, because life is this pushing force from behind, and it's not giving us a good taste when it does that. All right, so I think we're all good, yeah? We're all good with the questions. Okay, dear friends, it was a pleasure being with you on this Tuesday evening. Hopefully we'll see you guys again next week. We'll carry on with the prayer next week, or if not, I might have a surprise for us, because we're entering Pesach, so we might do something regarding Pesach. Okay, that's also important. In the meantime, have a good evening or good day, depending where you are and when you're watching. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.